This is a short video to give you an overview about what to expect from the GCSE French listening exam. This is what it tells us in the AQA specification. Pretty obvious. What's assessed is that you can understand and you can respond to it. So you've got to be able to answer questions about different types of spoken language. So it'll be a range. And how is it assessed? You'll have an exam right at the end of the course. In the hall, you'll be there and you'll be writing your answers. Foundation tier 35 minutes and higher tier 45 minutes. As far as the marks go, it comes to 25% of the GCSE. So even though, for example, for the higher tier it's out of 50 and the other skills are out of 60, this will then be, the weighting will be changed so that it still carries the same weighting. For each of them, you'll first of all have 5 minutes when you're allowed to read through the question paper before they start playing the audio. Questions at both tiers. Section A will have questions in English and you'll be answering in English or non-verbally, so ticking off things which might have pictures. And section B, the questions will be written in French and you have to answer in French. And again, there may well be some ticking of boxes as well. Here's a bit more detail, and I've found some little pictures to demonstrate each little bit, so you might remember it. So you are going to be entered for either foundation or higher for all of the skills. You'll be in the same tier, whichever skill it is. 25% of the marks we know. We've talked about the number of marks and the time. So it'll be recorded in a studio, so you're not going to have to cope with lots of background noise. There'll be native speakers, but they are going to be speaking in a clear way, and it says near normal speed. Normal tends to be for French pretty fast, but normally they really do. They make it so that it's a little bit slower so that you'll be able to understand it. We'll be getting it at the same time as the question papers. This is important. Different types of spoken language will be used. So it'll be in the context you know, the themes that we know, and it'll be across a range of themes. You'll be given 5 minutes to read beforehand. As far as examples are concerned, you only get it where it's necessary to show you how a particular question should be answered. So you'll be hearing each one twice, so that's where it's a bit unnatural, because normally if you ask someone to repeat, they'd repeat as many times as you need to, but it's only twice, and they will say it obviously in exactly the same way. Pauses are built into the test, so the examiner doesn't have to pause it. This is important. You can make notes at any time during the test, so even while you're listening to it at the beginning, you might want to do that. And as you know, we can't have dictionaries. So these little symbols were meant to be the fact that the pace is normal. It'll be stuff you know about. You have 5 minutes reading time. It can be repeated just once, and you can make notes, and you're not allowed to have a dictionary. Here's an example of what it'll look like. So here's the first page where you just have to fill it in and it gives you all the instructions. It would be good if you've really got familiar with that so that that doesn't panic you when you read it. It always says the same. Section A then, the questions and answers will be in English. And they could either be multi-choice or open-ended. This is an example where it's multi-choice. You've just got to write a letter next to each of those. Now this may sound a bit obvious, but if you don't know, just put in any letter, but make sure it is one of those letters. The examiner said that they did have a few examples where people would put in a letter that wasn't there. Section B, the questions and answers are in French. Again, it could either be multi-choice or open-ended. There tend to be quite a lot of multi-choice ones in this section normally. So there, the context is given in French. The questions themselves are in French, but you are still writing a letter. Again, multi-choice, just guess if you don't know. Each year the exam board gives advice to teachers and indeed to students based on what they've seen has happened in the previous exam. So here's the exam advice that was given in January 2020. First of all, preparation. The advice that you should really make use of that 5 minutes that you've got to read through the listening exam in advance. And these are things that they saw people doing, which I thought that's a good idea, really. They suggest that you highlight things. So take a highlighter into the exam and perhaps highlight key words in the rubrics, in the instructions. Where it says that there are 2 parts to be answered, highlight that in advance so that you know you're looking for 2 bits. Signpost that section B where the answer has to be in the target language. When people are panicking in exam, they might forget this vital information. So using your highlighter, good idea. The other thing is to read the rubric introduction carefully. It's the bit where it's saying what the instructions are, what the context is, and that can help you to give sensible answers. During the test, this might seem really obvious, but listen carefully to the whole utterance. Don't base your answer just on the first thing you hear. The whole point of this exam often is to distinguish one candidate from another, and part of it will be deliberately putting in distractors to try and put you off, but you still know what the answer is. So be careful about that. The other thing, don't give up if you find a question difficult, because some are more accessible later on. So in the reading I talked about peaks and troughs. So something can be difficult and the next one will be not so difficult, and then it'll go up, be a bit more difficult, and then not so difficult, and so on. And it's deliberately done that way. Be aware that for the higher level, 2/3 of the test is aimed at someone getting a 6 or above. So if you've been targeted a 5 and you've decided that you still want to try the higher level, be aware that in fact only a third of the exam is actually targeted to that 5. So you can expect that 2/3 of it is going to be quite demanding. Answer every question. If in doubt, just have a guess. I've already given that example in multi-choice where people put down nothing or put down incorrect letters. So think about that. Make sure that you are giving the specific information required. And if you're asked to give one reason or one detail, only give one. Because if you think, I'll make a chance on it, it's that and it could be that as well. If you put something else in, that will then negate the other one. You won't get anything at all. Page 89, exercise 1, listening. This is the sort of thing that you might get for GCSE. So here you've got a multi-choice where the question is in French and this is in French. So you're being tested on all levels, being able to read, being able to listen, being able to understand. So before you listen, work out the meaning of the sentences and each possible answer. So make sure you know what this means. And then you could try to predict what sort of language you might hear. So for question 1, you've got this word, les transports en commun. So you might think to yourself, well, what am I going to hear? I'm now going to play the audio, put your answers, and then I'll give you the answers.
Contrôle de lecture et d'écoute. Page 89. Exercice 1. Aline et Gabriel parlent de leur ville. Qu'est-ce qu'ils disent? Choisissez la bonne lettre pour compléter chaque phrase.
Écoutons Aline.
Ma ville est assez grande et très belle. J'habite en banlieue, mais heureusement, il y a toujours un bus si on veut aller au centre-ville. Moi, je préfère me détendre sur la plage avec mes copains. La ville attire tellement de touristes. Ils viennent pour les grands matchs de foot. Ma ville est assez grande et très belle. J'habite en banlieue, mais heureusement, il y a toujours un bus si on veut aller au centre-ville. Moi, je préfère me détendre sur la plage avec mes copains. La ville attire tellement de touristes. Ils viennent pour les grands matchs de foot.
Et maintenant, Gabriel.
Il y a 2 piscines et beaucoup d'endroits où on peut faire du sport. Je n'aime pas tellement en faire, mais ce qui me plaît ici, c'est qu'on a un ciné et un théâtre. Il y a aussi plusieurs boîtes de nuit qui mettent la musique trop fort le soir. Moi, je trouve ça nul, mais plusieurs de mes copains adorent y aller. Il y a 2 piscines et beaucoup d'endroits où on peut faire du sport. Je n'aime pas tellement en faire, mais ce qui me plaît ici, c'est qu'on a un ciné et un théâtre. Il y a aussi plusieurs boîtes de nuit qui mettent la musique trop fort le soir. Moi, je trouve ça nul, mais plusieurs de mes copains adorent y aller.
Answers coming up now. As usual, mark them, but then I'm going to go through and do a quick, rapid translation so you know why you got it right or why you got it wrong. Translation coming up now. So on the left-hand side, you've got the text, and on the right-hand side, the translation. So my city is quite big and very beautiful. I live in the suburbs, but fortunately, or luckily, there is always a bus if you want to go to the town centre. Me, I prefer to relax on the beach with my friends. The city attracts so many tourists. Page 89, exercise 2, listening. Lucy's comparing her old town with her new town. So what does she talk about? Listen and write down the letter of 3 correct statements. The advice given on this page, in this question, as she's talking about her old town and her new town, it's likely that you'll hear more than one tense. Pretty obvious, really. Which tense might she use to talk about where she used to live? And which tense might she use when talking about where she lives now? So we know for now it would be present, and where she used to live it would be the past, or probably the imperfect about what she used to do. So listen to this, and then the answers will come up later.
Page 89. Exercise 2. Lucy is comparing her old town with her new town. What does she talk about? Listen and write down the letters of the 3 correct statements.
Avant, j'habitais une grande ville connue pour sa cuisine et ses traditions. Il y a 6 mois, on a déménagé et maintenant, j'habite une petite ville à la campagne. Ici, le climat est doux, mais il peut faire assez froid en hiver. C'est une petite ville tranquille avec des pistes cyclables. C'est chouette parce qu'avant, j'allais au collège en voiture et il y avait trop de circulation, surtout pendant l'heure de pointe. J'aime ma nouvelle ville, mais il n'y a presque rien pour les jeunes. Avant, j'habitais une grande ville connue pour sa cuisine et ses traditions. Il y a 6 mois, on a déménagé et maintenant, j'habite une petite ville à la campagne. Ici, le climat est doux, mais il peut faire assez froid en hiver. C'est une petite ville tranquille avec des pistes cyclables. C'est chouette parce qu'avant, j'allais au collège en voiture et il y avait trop de circulation, surtout pendant l'heure de pointe. J'aime ma nouvelle ville, mais il n'y a presque rien pour les jeunes.
Answers coming up now. So she spoke about A, D and G. And now we're going to look at the transcript so that you know why it was you got it right or wrong. So translating, before I used to live in a big town known for its cuisine and its traditions. So A is correct. 6 months ago we moved and now I live in a little town in the countryside. Here the climate is mild, but it can be quite cold in winter. So it doesn't talk about B, where she used to live, because that's about the weather now. It's a little town, a quiet little town with cycle paths. So she doesn't talk about C, what there was in the town where she used to live. It's great because before I used to go to school in the car and there was too much traffic, particularly at rush hours. So she doesn't talk about what the traffic's like where she lives now, but she does talk about how she used to go to school. I like my new town, but there's hardly anything for young people. So she's not talking about where she used to live, she's talking about where she lives now. So A, D and G are the correct answers. Page 89, exercise 3. So you're hearing this news report and interview on the French radio. Answer the following questions in English and you don't have to write full sentences. Listen, write, and then when you're ready for the answers, resume.
Page 89. Exercise 3. You hear this news report and interview on French radio. Answer the following questions in English. You do not have to write full sentences. Les traditionnelles fêtes de Saint-Vincent à Collioure se déroulent sur 5 jours, du 14 au 18 août. Chaque année, entre 50 000 et 60 000 touristes viennent assister aux différents événements proposés. Procession en mer en barque catalane, concerts et musique de rue. Écoutons le témoignage d'Alex.
Tout le monde adore les fêtes, et ça attire les foules. Heureusement, les trains sont plus fréquents pendant cette période, et on ferme la circulation dans la ville à partir de midi. Du coup, on ne peut presque plus bouger, surtout dans les petites rues du Vieux-Port, et les restaurants sont toujours pleins. Mais c'est vrai, le spectacle du feu d'artifice du 16 août est à ne pas manquer.
Les traditionnelles fêtes de Saint-Vincent à Collioure se déroulent sur 5 jours, du 14 au 18 août. Chaque année, entre 50 000 et 60 000 touristes viennent assister aux différents événements proposés. Procession en mer en barque catalane, concerts et musique de rue. Écoutons le témoignage d'Alex.
Tout le monde adore les fêtes, et ça attire les foules. Heureusement, les trains sont plus fréquents pendant cette période, et on ferme la circulation dans la ville à partir de midi. Du coup, on ne peut presque plus bouger, surtout dans les petites rues du Vieux-Port, et les restaurants sont toujours pleins. Mais c'est vrai, le spectacle du feu d'artifice du 16 août est à ne pas manquer.
Answers coming up now. So mark and then I'll do a translation of the transcript. When you're ready, resume. Right, we'll translate it in a moment. You can see that you really do need to know your numbers. So for dates and numbers, that's important. And some of these things are not things that you've learnt as a set phrase, but hopefully you'd have heard words like train. You might have heard the word circulation. You'd have heard petite rue, and you'd have heard restaurant. And it could even be that you've guessed what happens in a town which gets loads and loads of tourists. Now let's go through and translate it then. So, the traditional festivals of Saint-Vincent à Collioure take place over 5 days from the 14th to the 18th of August. That you either know or you don't know. So you do have to learn those. Each year between 50,000 and 60,000. So 50,000 is 60,000. You need to know the word that 1000 is 1,000. Tourists come to attend the various events, procession on the sea, in Catalan boats, concerts and street music. Right, let's listen to Alex's testimony, what he says. Everybody loves festivals and it attracts crowds. Now this is the important bit. Fortunately, the trains are more frequent during this period. So you should have got it from knowing train and hopefully knowing plus fréquent. You might not have come across fréquent. And that's where if sometimes you imagine how something is spelt, you can sometimes work out what the word is. Now you see it, I'm sure that you would know it. If it were a reading comprehension, you'd know it. Possibly when you heard it, you didn't. So it's getting really your ear attuned and thinking, well, how might that be spelt? Pendant cette période, et on ferme la circulation, and traffic is closed. So you should know fermer, to close, circulation, you definitely should know of traffic, à partir de midi. So you can probably guess, even if you hadn't known, you think, well, what happens when there are lots of people in a town? Du coup, therefore, on ne peut presque plus bouger. Now, bouger, I think seems quite unfair because you haven't learned that, but it is actually a word you come across a lot in France. Bouger, to move. So you can hardly move, surtout dans les petites rues du Vieux-Port, above all in the little streets of the old port. And the restaurants are always plein, full. Plein. Make sure you know that word. Mais c'est vrai, but it's true. The fireworks on the 16th of August are not to be missed.